Welcome back to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price.
This is Carlos RTG Dixon.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price.
Louisville's finest, DJ Ice.
Don't leave it alone. I got it. Hey, good evening. Welcome to Conscious Fever here on ICE Entertainment Television and Conscious Fever Radio. We got a lot going on here. We're going to continue to try to have a lot going on here. I just want y'all to work with me. Anyway, chasing pavements. I feel like we're chasing pavements and not getting anywhere. Anyway, I'm Carl Price. This is Conscious Fever here on ICE Entertainment Television, Conscious Fever Radio. We're back after being gone for about a month, and the equipment here is telling us that we've been gone way too long, way too damn long. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Paul has a lot to talk about tonight. It's about Kenny Payne. So welcome. Real conversation about Kenny Payne and whether he should stay. Everybody's whispering around. The fans are saying he needs to go. The AD says he needs to stay. He's saying he can't get the best players in the country, so maybe he should stay or maybe he should go. I don't know what he's saying. But we don't know if he's coaching. So anyway, we're going to talk about it tonight. We're going to be kind of candid. If you want to offer your comments, you can offer your comments. But I'll be right back after this quick break. All right.
Sounds like we have at least 3 injuries, one bleeding from the head. Our caller also stated that one party is unresponsive with severe injuries. They believe it may be fatal.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price.
All right, welcome back to Conscious Fever here on ICE Entertainment Television, Conscious Fever Radio. I am Carl Price, your host. Let's talk about Kenny Payne. Paul Mullins, attorney extraordinaire. I asked him to join me tonight because he was anxious to talk about this. Say that again. Very, very anxious to talk about him. Was there an issue again? Oh, really? Okay, very, very anxious to talk about him. So anyway, Paul, let's talk about this. Let's just dive right into this. Kenny Payne is the coach of the University of Louisville Cardinals. Their record is 5-7. Okay, and this is like a three-peat of last year. No, just a repeat of last year. We're seeing the same pattern. We're seeing the same behavior of the players. We don't see the excitement. We don't see the enthusiasm. We definitely can't see it in the fans because the fans are not there. So the real question that we pose for ourselves tonight is the real question that everybody in Louisville is asking, and some are answering it one way, some are answering the other way. But the question is, should he stay or should he go? But before we get into your ultimate answer, let's talk about Kenny Payne. Let's talk about the program. Let's talk about Arkansas State. Let's talk about Bellarmine. Let's just go through and talk about all of them. So, give us your take on this. I mean, you've been the man extraordinaire about this. Just talk to us about it.
Extraordinary, but
Is he a solo?
last year we saw what we saw, and I called him on the radio show, and I said, if we get better players, I still don't know if we're going to get better teams. It's something about what's going on in the program. It's just not working. I mean, let's see, 7, what is wins the last 2 years.
Yeah.
35 games. No, 9-35. We are 9-35 in the last 2 years. Let that sink in. 9-35. Right? So that's 44 games, and you only won 9. And I always say this because I feel like it's true. You got to work hard to win only 4 games.
Right.
It's an effort to win only 4 games, and I don't mean a good effort. I don't think our players. I don't think they're that bad that we can only win 4 or 5 games. It's something about the scheme. It's something. It's everything. The problem that I have
Stop.
most is if we're losing
Stop.
fans, we're losing money in the programs, we're losing the future of Louisville basketball. We will become another school in the state like Western Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky when it comes to this sport if we continue to drive downhill. Because Kentucky basketball will say, why would you ever go to any other basketball school in this state when we're the only ones who win? And that's huge to people who aren't our age, Carl. Think about this. My son and your son, my son's 18. He didn't grow up, he grew up a Louisville basketball fan because of me, but his only experience with Louisville basketball is in 2013, Carl, he was 12 years old, right? So,
Right.
uh, he wasn't 12. I can't even do the math right. It was 7 years ago. Yeah, he was 12. Okay. So it might be 10. Either way it goes, you're talking about somebody in elementary school who, again, can't appreciate being in love with
You're in
the
control
game
now.
and wanting to follow U of L basketball. And these types of fans in the state, what they've seen from U of L basketball since 2013 is nothing good, nothing to the level of UK. And then we got a coach who comes on a press conference and basically says to the world, well, we're never going to be as good as UK. So,
Yeah. What do you think the fundamental problem? I mean, first of all, I guess the question is there a fundamental problem with Kenny Payne coaching?
I don't understand his play style. I know it's dribble drive offense, but I don't understand what he stands for as a coach. Now, to be a good coach, what are the qualities of a good coach?
Well, you
Excel.
used to be a coach, so talk. You tell us what the. I mean, and Paul, you and I talked about this earlier. Let me just say this: you and I talked about this earlier. We talked about that sometimes you have an elementary school coach, right? Coaching 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds who are half of them are not interested in playing basketball. They easily get distracted. So your coaching abilities then must surface to motivate them, excite them to actually play. And so that sometimes is a tougher job than doing it in college because you would think that these players want to play because a lot of them are eyeing the NBA. So fundamentally, what, if anything, is Kenny Payne missing? And you're a former coach, former elementary school coach or preschool coach.
And I'd like to tell people this. I coached for a school that hadn't won a game in 3 years, and they were just used to losing. And the kids were nerdy little kids, and they had no athletic talent. And I had to convince them that even though they didn't have athletic talent, they could still win. And we did get some good players that came along, and that does help. But you still have to learn how to, you have to be able to motivate your players in all levels, any sport, even in the pros. If you can't motivate your players to play, I know it's probably, I guess it should be easier to motivate pros because they have their own internal motivation. But you got to motivate the players to want to play your style of basketball. Buy in. You always hear this in sports. They got to buy into your coaching technique, your style, your system. They have to you have to be able to communicate with them to tell them what you want to do because sometimes Kenny says it appears as though he's saying they don't understand what I'm trying to get them to do. What's wrong with that? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You have to communicate that in a way that they understand it. And so then you've got to, as a coach of a major basketball program, you've got to be able to deliver and communicate with the fans so that we understand what's going on. Don't tell us a player ain't on the team and he's sitting up in the stands. And you don't even know he's in the stands, and you don't even know whether he's on the team or not. How does that happen? You know what I'm talking about, the Karan Davis situation? How does that happen? Karan Davis told everybody he was on the team. Kenny Payne said he was on the team. Karan Davis is sitting in the stands like he ain't on the team. Then Kenny Payne says he's kicked off the team. Karan Davis doesn't know he's kicked off the team. All this, that whole mess. What happened with Karan Davis? Nobody understands. You can't even communicate that to the fans. We trust that you're able to communicate your system to the basketball players. So you're asking what the problem is. It's a it's a group of things. I don't think it's just that Kenny and Payne is that X and O guy. I don't think it's that he can't. I don't know what it is. I just know that I like him when he got here. I liked him when he got here. I thought he was a good guy. I thought he was a good fit because he's a former U of L player. I remember him in '86. Who doesn't? If you're my age, I remember that team. But sometimes having former players who were good players who won a championship isn't necessarily what it takes to be a great head coach. I don't know what it's going to take for him to do this, but I did call in on a radio show and I literally said last year I called in on the drive 93.9 and I said Kenny Payne's going to have to go this summer. This is after our 4-9, 4. I remember losses, 19 losses. I said he's going to have to go in over the summer. He's going to have to reinvent himself and become a different coach because the coaching style that he had last year, I could already see it wasn't going to work. You only have 4 wins. That's hard to do. To line up, it ain't like we had a tough schedule. It's like there's no way you're going to win. We had an average schedule, so that means there was other average teams on our schedule who still won more than 4 games. Bellarmine beat us, and Bellarmine wasn't very good. A lot of teams beat us that weren't very good. So what does that say? Is it just we got bad players? Well, they have bad players too. You think we need to have better players than Bellarmine or Arkansas State or all? No, they may not be miles better, but we have better players. So you can't just harp on, well, wait till 10 kids at U of L. So
Yeah.
everybody can't, he's right. Kenny's right about one thing. Everybody can't have the top 10 recruiting class. But U of L has never really had top 10 recruiting classes. We've had good recruiting classes, and we've taken them with our good coaches and made them better than what they were supposed to be. The 2013 team that won the championship, who was the blue chip player on that team? Certainly wasn't Luke Hancock, but he was the MOP. So what does that tell you? How does a guy who wasn't a blue chip player get the most valuable player award?
Mm. Well, so here's my question. So my question is, I mean, how do you? I mean, first of all, is there a fundamental issue with his? And if there is it with his style of coaching or with his ability to be able to coach?
I don't really know. I do understand the dribble drive offense and why it looks pathetic for us and looks great for Kentucky. If you run a dribble drive offense, you do need better players because the scheme of that offense is we want to take our best guards, mostly our point guards, and we want them to drive to the basket and have the mindset that when they get to the basket, they're going to make a play. That's your first look in a dribble drive offense. Whoever's got the ball, can they get to the basket quickly, put the pressure on the defense to either score a quick layup or kick it out for a 3 or kick it out to somebody underneath the goal. Understand the basic premise of the dribble drive offense. We don't seem to be executing it very well, and that might be the coaching side of it. They may look great in practice, but they can't execute it in a game. But again, that comes back to coaching. You've got to take a player who performs in your practices, even if it's at a high level or superstar level, and if he can't do that in a game, you've got to figure out how to make him do that in a game. What you can't do is watch players continue to make mistake after mistake and give them zero consequences. You know, if there's zero consequences, your team's not going to get better.
So do you think? Okay, so let me go back because I was trying to read some stats on Kenny Payne when you were talking about Davis, the player Davis, right?
Well, I hadn't talked about him yet, but I talked to him at lunch about it. Remember early on?
But that's first of all, that was embarrassing.
Do you remember Karan Davis? Right?
Yes, Karan Davis.
In the season, as soon as the season started, maybe the first or second game, I gave you a call or a text, and I said, this Evans guy doesn't deserve to be started. And I said that for like 5 games in a row. I was like, I said, I'm not the coach of U of L basketball, but whatever he sees in this player, he doesn't deserve to be started. He might be a top recruit. He might be a good player that needs to develop. But when he put him out on the court as a starter in the game in the 5 spot, and he had our other center, Huntley Hatfield, on the court at the same time, I immediately started calling people saying, these guys don't need to be on the court at the same time. And he was saying it, and then finally, Kenny takes him off the court, and we do a little bit better. But I'm like,
He hurt you.
I did not see that.
Kenny hurt you.
But I'm just like, how do you not?
If you think he,
I just wonder what goes on in his mind when he's looking at. I can sit here and say, you're not worthy of a coach. You don't have the pedigree, but it doesn't matter. Any fan can see what we all saw. Evans might be a good 7 foot player. He might be tall, but he couldn't block. He couldn't rebound. He couldn't dribble, and he couldn't shoot. He did. He might be able to do that next year or in 2 years when he's got a strength and conditioning and some training, and he gets out in the gym and he practices basketball. But we could all see that. And it wasn't like I'm sitting there saying that guy's terrible, get him off the court. I'm saying this coach should be able to see that he's not ready.
right? But what do
That's
you?
not the kid's fault. The kid's gonna want to play. If you put my son, who can't play basketball at the level of colleges, okay, but if you put him on U of L's team and somebody said I'm gonna let you play, you're like, all right, go out there, because that's what they want to do. It's
Right.
not blaming the kids.
Right, but here's my question to you out of all questions. So where is the disconnect, if any, with Kenny Payne and the University of Louisville men's basketball team?
I don't know that. I don't think that Kenny doesn't love U of L basketball. I'm not questioning his integrity. I'm just saying somebody can love U of L basketball, but maybe the job's just too much for him. I don't know. I feel bad saying this because I want Kenny to win, but I can't watch U of L basketball. Did you watch the entire UK game? Because I'm gonna confess, I didn't.
No, I couldn't. I honestly I could not. I could not watch the game, and sometimes it's difficult to watch any of the U of L men's basketball games. And one of the reasons is it has nothing to do with the fact that I think they may lose. It's just that it's almost like watching a street ball game with men in red and black
I
uniforms.
don't want anybody to say
I mean, nobody assists. Nobody.
which was a good improvement.
Right, which was an improvement, but they're not passing the ball. I mean, they get a break, a layup, and they just take it all the way down, and they lay it up, and sometimes they miss it. So, let me just say this, because the ultimate question is, Kenny Payne, should he stay or should he go? So we're going to answer that at the end. But let's talk about some of the flaws that you see.
Last year, less to a degree this year, I saw a lack of teaching of fundamental basketball. I remember texting maybe you, my son, whoever, and watching a game where you had players who had the ball on offense, but they had their back to the basket with the ball. And I'm like, we sometimes have the easiest team to guard because our guys sometimes turn their backs to the basket and dribble away from the basket. No one's going to defend them with any kind of effort when they're not looking at the goal. So that was some things last year that I noticed. This year, it's me ball. Whoever gets the ball gets to score, and they don't really think team first. And when they gel into a group that thinks team first, they'll be better. But right now, he's not creating any consequence for them not doing what he wants to do. See, as a coach, you've got to be able to undress your best player and make him feel just as bad as if he was the worst player. So they everybody knows that you're the one in control of that team. I'm not saying you don't do this. I just don't know. But I know that if I have I'm not picking on Trey White, but if I have a Trey White who's dribbling down court, doesn't look to pass the ball, doesn't look at anybody else, and as soon as he gets across half court, keeps the ball, dribbles into the lane, shoots a layup, and misses, I'm gonna be mad at him because you took a chance on taking that drive and doing all of that, but you get into the lane and you're facing 1-on-3. Now I'm mad at you. I'm not mad at you because you missed a shot. I'm mad at you because you took a shot where you got to shoot over 3 people. I expect you to miss when 3 people are guarding you. Okay, but there's no consequence in the Kenny Payne offense. Watch it time after time after again. Kenny's afraid that, well, if I take out my best players, my team's going to suck. So what, Kenny? Take them out. You can lose with good or bad players. If your good players aren't playing any great, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win anyway. So make a consequence for your good players so that they decide, okay, I'm going to be on my game so I never have to get pulled out. Then you've got to tell them, look, you guys, if you want to play at another level, you got to be able to play all day long. So if you're getting tired after 15 minutes of play and there's 30 minutes or 20 minutes and a half, and you can't make it to the last 5 minutes, your conditioning's got to be spot on. What did Rick Pitino do when he was here? He conditioned his players. That was one
To
thing.
death.
He was going to be in shape. And if your coaches didn't look like they was in shape, he was going to make them exercise too. Why? Because I used to tell my fifth graders, if you want to be a basketball player, the average player is confident. That means the average player feels like they deserve to be on the court. So if you're confident about your skills, you're just an average player. A good player is one who's consistent. He's practiced a lot and he's able to hit shots consistently. But the great players are the conditioned players, the three C's. And those are the players who can do all of what you just did, but they can do it all game nonstop. And that's what makes players. You got to tell your kids that. You got to give them that motivation because if our players are out of shape like last year, Sydney, center we had last year, he got all out of shape. Why did coach let him do that?
Yeah. So I mean, when you look at what Kenny Payne has done the last 2 years at the University of Louisville, which is practically nothing, right? Right.
I know he's. I don't know what.
Well, you see the record.
I don't know. Okay, you're right. And I'm blaming him because the buck stops here. If he's gonna say I got bad players and they're just no good, I can't do nothing with them. I'm sorry. That's not coaching. I mean, if you give me Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, and you give me Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, I'm gonna win some games. Good coach and I.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I thought that we would be able to do tonight, and we didn't get an opportunity to do it, was to have two post-game press conferences, one of Kenny Payne and one of Deion Sanders. And the reason I thought that would be a good idea is because you can see the contrast of a coach who consistently motivates, even in the spoken word at the press conference. In Deion Sanders, he continues to motivate his players. He says things like that, we fell short or something like that. But his speech is very, very motivating. We're gonna go back in there and we're gonna come back and we're gonna do it again. The guys fought hard today and they did that. But then Kenny Payne, when you look at his press conferences are more along the lines of, well, they don't want to play. And the question I ask is that I always thought, at least as an athlete, that the coach was the motivator. The coach, Paul, was the motivator. That was the motivator. That was the one that got me excited about running the race that I needed to race. If it's a big race, if it's a small race. And so my question to you is whether Kenny Payne just lacks the basic skills of motivating. And before you answer that question, let me just offer this comment. In my opinion, we should never hire anybody from University of Kentucky, not because they're just not U of L, but only because if they come from the basketball program in the last literally almost 10 years, you have the best players in the nation. So you really don't have to do a lot of coaching. You just have to say, go out there and play, right? And if all Kenny Payne has been doing with Calipari for the last 10 years is saying, go out there and play, there's no way you can develop the skill set to be coaching.
Part of it goes to the X's and O's part of it, but the other is, like you said, the motivation. This, making sure you're telling people or kids how to become a better player when you're not in practice. Because again, people laugh and say, "Well, you have fourth and fifth graders," and I say this all the time, and I said it to my kids. It doesn't matter what I'm telling you now. You can take everything I'm telling you about how to be a good player. You can take it to your middle school. You can take it to your high school. They're all the same. I would tell them stuff like, you cannot just be good at something. You have to deliberately want to be good at it, and you have to practice it. If we have guys who are constantly missing free throws and constantly missing layups, they just ain't practicing it enough. Because if it takes a great player 50 times to learn how to shoot a new shot or shoot a better shot, it might take somebody else 500. But that doesn't mean that that player can't achieve that same level of success. He's just got to practice more. And you would tell little kids this, and they're like, coach. And they go out and do stuff. They go out and do stuff to make themselves better. Man, my son was playing basketball. He sat back for 3 hours. What you tell him? You know, I just told him how to be a good player. I don't care. I don't know if he's a good player or not, but he thinks he can be, and that's all that matters.
Louisville was ranked number 15 last year in the ACC tournament. I mean, literally number 15. Of course, they barely beat UMBC this year by 1 point, but they allowed them to score. That team, University of Maryland at Baltimore campus, I think is what it's called. And if I'm wrong, y'all correct me. Allow that team to score 93 points. And they won by 1 point, 94. And U of L won by 1 point. I don't know if it says it. This indication doesn't. Then on the 10th, Chattanooga, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga came in to the Yum Center and beat the Cardinals by 10 points. You know, these teams that are really pickup teams, or what we used to call pick-on teams. You know, this was a team that basically it was kind of like a horse race when a horse gets into a race and just breezes around the track with no intent to win. These teams were teams that we were supposed to beat because they were just pick-on teams. And my phone went.
Don't give me this. Our players. Can you tell me that Chattanooga and UMBC out-recruited us? I don't think so. I don't think so.
New Mexico State. Well, looks like Louisville beat them. I think that's New Mexico.
We lost to Bellarmine.
Lost to Virginia Tech. DePaul.
Right.
DePaul.
I mean, you can't tell us that they're out-recruiting us, Kenny. I'm not falling for it.
I thought Kentucky would beat U of L a little bit more.
I'm thinking Calipari took it easy on them.
I mean, were you one of those fans that was hoping that Calipari took Kenny Payne back to Lexington with him?
No.
Now, be honest.
That thought didn't cross my mind. Here's what the problem is, Carl. And I'm going to talk about something that's outside of Kenny. Our fan base is not showing up to the game.
Right.
5,000 people a game. 5,000. We got more.
Yeah, that's a problem
for the games than we're getting this year. And it's not because we're fair weather fans. Quit telling us that it's
there was more people at the Dirt Bowl than that.
Quit telling us that it's our fault that the team's not winning because they're not showing up. Okay? Yeah. Don't tell us that. The fans come to see basketball games. Why do you go see a U of L basketball game? You want to feel good. It's not because.
Well, every fan wants to be a fanatic.
You want to feel good. And
you want to feel good.
Basketball game, you don't feel good. And if you don't feel good, you don't want to go there. Doesn't mean you're not a fan. Doesn't mean you don't like Kenny Payne or the team. You don't feel good watching the games. So nobody wants to go to a game when you don't feel good.
I'm going to read you some comments, Paul. One comment is KP staying. I'm sorry, Kenny Payne is staying. Kenny Payne, KP. Kenny Payne is staying because the school doesn't have the money to buy him out currently. But
it's true. But okay, so here's the comment. Do you remember I made this comment to you, Carl? I said,
where is A.D. Jurich? Bring him back.
Okay, but the comment I made.
He won't come back, but bring him back.
To you and to this text is where AD sees the wall burning, can't tell that the house is burning down.
Yeah.
Once the house is burned down, you may not be able to fix it.
Where did he come from anyway? I mean, did he come from another school? Is he a U of L?
The choice isn't just Josh Hurd because now it's all
financial now. So it's all financial now.
The problem is that short-sighted people won't understand that if Kenny Payne tears this thing completely down to where nobody wants to be associated with Louisville basketball, meaning recruits, meaning sponsors, meaning anything that brings money in, it's a slow spiral down into a hole that's even harder to dig out of.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when you're
I think a big name coach will get you out of it, though, because the big name coach will bring the big name players.
A big name coach might see how much of a dumpster fire it is and say,
and say I don't want to be a part of it. Yeah. Well, here's another. He's going to finish the season out because it's cheaper on the budget at U of L. And then our buddy down in Nashville says, from the outside looking in, some guys are better assistants than head coaches. Right. Wade Houston here in Knoxville was another example, even though he didn't get a fair shake here. Do you believe that that's a good analogy? That Wade Houston was a better assistant coach than he was a head coach. I mean, he went down to Tennessee because Wade went with. I mean, I'm sorry, his son went with. Allen went with.
I don't know Wade's record at Tennessee. I know it wasn't very good, but I don't know if he could coach or not.
It was probably very good, but it was probably pretty good. But you're talking about the Tennessee Volunteers.
I know you're going to say there's an element of racism.
Oh, of course it is.
This is 19
higher standard.
788. I don't remember.
Much higher standard then.
I just can't remember back then what he went through. I don't even know what his record was. So if he says that not Kenny Payne, but Wade Houston got a bad deal and he was there, that's fine. But I can't speak on it. I was 14 years old. You know what I'm saying? So all I know is what I'm seeing now. And I hear a lot of people, like I heard a guy call in on the radio show this morning and try to insinuate that they're mistreating Kenny and not giving him a fair shake, and Braum didn't do so well either. So it's just a black guy calling in on the radio show.
Yeah, Braum did much better than Kenny Payne.
He said, well, Braum, lost 3 games in a row against, coaches that were better than him, so he's not that good. And I'm just like, what are you saying? All 35 coaches in America were better than Kenny? He lost our money. But it's basically, there's some people out there who are apologists and
I mean, you do agree that U of L's football team got their ass kicked the last 3 games, starting with Kentucky.
That's fine. We went 10-1, and everybody had hope. And everybody knows why we lost those games. You can't say it was the coaching. I mean, he did everything you could.
It was the quarterback.
I mean, you know that.
Paul is on a train of rudeness tonight. So Plummer lost the last 3 games.
I think it's a secret that. All right, let me ask you this question because I asked my son this question. He calls me and says at the end of the game he's mad because we losing, and he says U of L sucks. I said, Sean, I said, hey, if we had that other quarterback that's playing, that's beating our ass, what do you think our record would be? 12, 13 wins. Yeah.
Right. But here's, so let me just get back to this other part of Kenny Payne. The other part of Kenny Payne is I mean, let's assume that he is just a horrible coach right now. Is he salvageable? Now, a fan would shake their head no, like he's doing. But I'm just saying, is there room to say that if he had just half of the talent that University of Kentucky has?
No, the talent argument is what everybody wants to use. Show me where you can take this team that started off 5-7 and finish the season. You got 19 games. Finish the season 10-9. Okay, and you will change some people's opinions. But you gotta not let us think when we look at our team. How many people here think that Louisville's gonna win more than 4 games in the next 19? I don't. 4 games in the next 19.
Paul, that's bad.
That's the truth.
Well,
schedule. Who are we gonna beat?
You're thinking in the future, so you don't know whether it is the truth. I know that's a truth of prediction for you.
ACC games left. Most of them are ACC. Let's
right.
Say 18 or 17.
Right.
Who are we gonna beat?
Come on, Paul.
No. That's a serious question.
So
you went to Vegas. And Vegas said the over/under for U of L is 5 games. Are you buying or selling? You taking that bet? 5 games, and would you bet $1,000 that we're going to win 5 games?
No comment.
Yeah, I wouldn't, and that's a problem. Now,
no comment.
When you go to the U of L football games, we were 10-1. We believed we could win. We didn't win. We were let down, but that's certainly better than going into your 11th game saying we got no shot. We're not going to win. Give us hope. He doesn't give us hope. That team doesn't give us hope, and those players are better players. Huntley Hatfield is a good player. Trey White is a good player. There
is a clock above your head that says 9:50. 51 and 18, 19, 20 seconds. So I'm going to pose a question to you. Should he stay or should he go? Why?
Can't coach. They just left.
Okay. I mean, legitimately, he can't coach, not because he's not winning, because good coaches lose as well.
If he beats the people he's supposed to beat, we're not having this discussion. Kenny Payne last year was 15 and 15. We'd be pissed, but we wouldn't be having this discussion. If he was 7 and 5 instead of 5 and 7, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat. That's all we ask. Then we'll talk about getting better, going to the tournament, building for the future. You can't even beat the teams that we pay to come here and play us. We pay them to come here and get their asses kicked. They leave, take our money, take our fans, nothing. And we gotta pay them for that bullshit. No, we cannot continue to have a team with 5,000 people in the Yum Center. It's not just the Yum Center. Read the articles. The businesses down here rely on the Yum Center for their weekend profits. They're complaining too. U of L sucks. We now suck. Now we're gonna close down.
Yeah, you should back up a little bit off the camera, but don't fall out that window because you're getting a little excited, Paul. But you're
Because people won't say the obvious. They won't say the obvious.
the obvious is what? He's got to go.
Coach.
He can't coach. He can't coach. Do you believe that?
Maybe I could coach this level, but I'm not getting $5 million a year.
Right. Assuming that
I can get the same goddamn record.
assume that it's not about the money at U of L. Do you think they have empathy for Kenny Payne?
Yes, because he's a former player, and a lot of people wanted him to be here. A lot of former players, a lot of former staff. People wanted him to be here. People wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to succeed, but I can't watch 5,000 people. I can't watch my son go to a U of L game and get in for $3. That's what happened. Got in for $3. That doesn't make sense in this day and age. We were the school whose basketball program made $25 million a year, had a budget of $25 million, more than some people's football teams. We were ranking ahead of football teams in the amount of revenue we generated for the university. And all of that is getting torched. And it's not all Kenny's fault. But if the walls are burning, you've got to see the house burning down.
You keep saying that. We're gonna have to we're gonna have to yell for the firemen. But I mean the real question here is or another question is it fair to let him go so quickly if he really hasn't had the chance to develop the talent, develop the skill, allow the players to develop the skill set under his program?
So I hate to cut you off this show. I get it. But when we talk
You ain't supposed to cut me off on my show, but that's okay.
talk about developing talent and is it fair? What has Kenny Payne shown you to make you think that it will get better? And I called this out last year. I said, I don't care if he gets the top 5 recruits, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 of them. I don't think he can get the job done here. He might get him to the tournament.
I mean, all you have to do is just send him out on the floor and say, "Go play."
That is not true.
Well, but that's what. But it does make it easier, right? If you have the best talent in the nation. So it sounds like you're suggesting that even if Kenny had the best talent in the nation, wow.
That's what I'm saying. Because what we see with our own eyes is a team that looks not just bad, they look poorly coached. If they're poorly coached, it doesn't matter what players you have, what talent you have, you can't seem to do anything with it.
Here's another comment. He's not going anywhere. Exclamation point. Do y'all really think he can turn the program around in a year or two? They are not giving him a chance. Do you believe that he's had a chance?
So here's the problem. When you say they're not giving him a chance, you have to measure that with a metric. What is it, Kenny, that you've done with this team to show us that your coaching has made progress? You cannot lose to a team in Baltimore full of community college players. You can't lose to them.
But Paul, isn't that the real issue here? I mean, the fans are upset because Kenny Payne and the University of Louisville men's basketball team have lost against schools that they shouldn't have lost against. Now, right, a lot of schools that they haven't lost against, but if the program is in development and is still trying to mature under Kenny Payne, the question I have for you is that isn't it unfair not to give him a chance to continue on? Because, as opposed to measure whether he should stay or go by the fact that he's lost against a Bellarmine or he's lost against an HBCU school or something like that.
So Carl, when you talk about
not that there's no HBCU schools that can beat the hell out of U of L, because I think they can. But
again, go back to a fifth grade team I had. Okay, I know it sucks. You're saying this ain't the same, but let me tell you what happened. We played Chauncey Elementary. If y'all know who that school is, that school was really good. We played them as best we could, and they beat us by 20. We then faced them again in the playoffs. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a fluke. We ended up beating them in the playoffs by 5 points. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a fluke. Literally took those kids, helped them understand exactly why we lost that game, helped them understand exactly what that team that we played against had on that team, how to break that team down, how to now go back and play against them in a different way, and we won. That coach tried to fight me after the game. He was so pissed because he never thought he could lose to us. We had nerdy little kids with no athletic talent. And you motivate the kids, you point out what's going on exactly, why are you losing? What is the exact reason? And these little fifth graders understood that. If we do things a little bit different, we will get better. And we won. So we went from a school that couldn't win a game to a school of kids who thought they could win again to a school of kids who were bragging, we're going to whoop your asses. Nerdy little kids. It's all a mindset. You've got to, and you tell little kids, you can't just wake up and be good at basketball. You've got to practice and you've got to love this game and you got to want to be here. If Kenny's not telling his kids that, remember in 2013, we had kids that, give you another Francisco Garcia. They said him and some other kid on the team, I can't remember.
Russell?
They used to go out to the gym and play all day. You don't hear stories like that. You've got to have either players to do that or you've got to motivate them to go out and do that. You can't just play basketball practicing in a gym a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
And your coach has got to be the, and you know how that doesn't translate to the players? Because Kenny Payne doesn't do that. He doesn't practice all year long. He waits to the end of the summer and he says, oh, I guess I better try the transfer portal. Yeah, people have been doing that for 2 years, Kenny. Wake up, join the crew. So if your coach is laid back, it doesn't work extra hard, your players aren't going to do that.
Right. Well, okay, so you think he should go?
The question is, what has been shown to me that tells me that his teams are going to get better? Because what I'm seeing is I'm seeing the same mistakes from last year, only to a lesser degree. But they're still there. I mean, you still got guys. How many times have you watched a guy start at the outside 3-point line, dribble all the way up to the layup line, go up against three people, and jack up a shot? Everybody thought about putting another guy down on the baseline so that when the three people crashed on the guy shooting the ball, that somebody could get a handoff and take a layup? Like, it's never happened. It happens every once in a while. But where's that play at?
What makes you think he's not telling them that, according to one of the listeners?
They're not doing it. He's got to become a coach and say, I'm taking you out. I can lose with terrible players. I tell fifth graders that. I can lose with worse players. I put my better players in because I expect to win. But if you're going to do losing plays, I can do that with the guy on the 10th spot on the bench. I can do that with him. I don't have to do it with the player that I expect good players from. But he won't do that. He lets them stay in the game. He lets them keep screwing up, and there's no consequences. They're never going to learn to get over that if he doesn't pull them out.
I know you used to be a basketball coach. I know it was Little League, but you were okay for 10 years. You were a basketball coach. So here's I have a very, very important question in reference to this topic we're talking about with Kenny Payne, and the fact that you used to be a basketball coach. And the question is, it's a very simple one, is that you know how when you play in a casino, if you don't use all the chips that you've purchased or that you've won or somebody has given to you, that you go back and you cash them in. Is that what happens in NCAA basketball with timeouts? What's up with Kenny Payne and his timeouts?
He let Kentucky go on a 14-0 run, calls a timeout after they scored 14 points in a row because evidently he's not paying finished the game. And I said, "Oh, Kenny, that was a mistake." But guess what? He doubled down. He did it twice. He did it twice. It didn't work the first time, Kenny. So I'll just wait and do it again. Let him go on a 14-0 run. Then I'll call a timeout. Like, you go to the half with all your timeouts. Why? You're losing anyway. They expect you to lose. Use all your timeouts. Get them in the huddle. Rally them up and say, "Hey, look, the first 10 minutes of the game, we did great. I'm going to let you take a little break. We need to keep doing that." No, what does he do? All right, Mr. Shot. 10 point, oh, 14. Oh, shit, timeout. Too late.
What do you think his assistants are doing in terms of contributing?
I think they're scared of him because I don't know. I'm making this up I'm pulling it out of my ass. They're obviously scared of something's going on because I don't see any flyer from them either. Do you ever see them on the bench doing anything other than sitting there? Either are they? There's no. Did somebody tell Kenny in order to be a coach, you just need to be lackadaisical and just sit there? Cause like I was like that when we were winning, but when we're losing,
You have to be up and animated, right?
it's not that I had to be up and animated. It caused you to be. Like you see, you're losing, you're down 5, and you're trying to win a game, and you see a player make a stupid mistake, you get animated. You don't just go, "Come on, do better." No, you got it. And the fire that you. Here's another story. We did a pickup league, and I went into the pickup league. And, these were just random 6th and 7th graders, and my son was in the pickup league, and I walked into the league, and they said, "Well, everybody's already picked the team. You got the players that are left over." I still won with the leftover players. I had kids who thought they weren't going to win. Out of shape fat kid, and I got these kids to buy in. I did. He was out of shape, but he could shoot.
Out of shape
But
fat kid.
I mean,
Out of shape fat kid. Okay.
but I got these kids.
Hit a 3-pointer. We got a piece of chocolate cake for you.
First thing I taught him.
Some ice cream.
Now listen, this is a good story.
Chocolate chip cookies.
First thing I taught him in a couple of days was you're going to see a lot of 2-3 because they figure we can't shoot. Taught him how to beat a 2-3 zone in a couple of days. How to beat a 2-3 zone. Real simple. Got out a little board, showed him on there, said, "This is how you do it." Taught them through my words. And they were running 3-point zone attack offenses to perfection. And I just put that team together because it's just about communicating to kids and telling them, first of all, this ain't hard to do. This ain't hard to learn. Kenny Payne, it looks like at times we don't even know how to play against his own defense. And that bothers me because I got kids that I could probably. I saw one. Remember, we were at the World's Fair. Saw one of my kids from my old team from 10, 15 years ago. Remember, and he still remembers some of the stuff I told him. But my point is that when I watch U of L play, and we don't seem like we can attack a 2-3 zone, and you can teach kids how to do that literally in the cost of probably in a day or two. It's really not difficult to know how to attack it. It still comes down to whether you can shoot or whether you can pass.
Right. Would you
They don't even look like they know how to play against it.
would you take $100,000 and save U of L a lot of money and just finish coaching for this year?
That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. So
I would also change. I would also change what he's doing because if he can run the offense he wants to, but his defense has got to change. I would change to a 2-3. I'd teach my team how to play 2-3 zone and play 2-3 zone. Stop playing man to man because in a man to man, they're scoring 96 points. That means your man to man ain't working.
right.
It's not working. You're literally getting beat. So you might as well just play a 2-3 zone, slow the game down, right? Save conserve your players so they don't get all tired running up and down the court. Do something different. Play a two. Rick Pitino, when he coached at Kentucky, did not run a 2-3 zone. Why? He had the best players. What did he do when he got to U of L? When he didn't have the best players? He ran a 2-3 zone. Kenny Payne is letting everything just flow past him. Do
Yeah.
something.
Well, it's obvious to me that the question I've asked 3 times, you've answered it 3 times. You think just Kenny needs to go right now. Pack up. Don't pass, go. Don't collect $200. Just go.
So the fan in me says, yes, pack him up in the middle of the season. This is terrible. Put an interim in. Anybody who will do something different. Anybody who will do something different. You remember when David Paget was the interim coach?
Yes.
Bring him back. Do you know that team did not do very well? But no, everybody still supported him. Why did we support David Page's team even though they were had like
That caller would say that because David Page is white. But go ahead.
That's not true.
Yeah, I
Do
don't
you
believe it.
remember
I don't
the
think it's
team?
true.
Do
I
you
do
know
remember the team. Yes.
we like that team is because even though they weren't any good, we believed they played hard. We believed they were well coached. And that's all you can ask for. If you lose a game and it's like, man, that was a tough game. Dang, we lost. But you knew that team played hard. You knew they were well coached. You could tell. Your eyes told you this is a well coached team. We just missed a shot.
Yeah.
We're looking at Kenny Payne's team. Guy starts outside the lane, comes across court. I'm looking from a shot. Of course, that's the dribble drive offense. It sucks, but it's got some other nuances that they haven't looked at. You can tell by looking at Kentucky's teams. Drives to the basket. Three guys collapse on him. He takes the shot anyway.
How embarrassing would this season be if Kenny stayed the whole term?
It's not going to get any better, but you need a new face to show recruits that, I mean, that something different's going to happen. Because Kenny's complaint was my cousin called me and told me that Kenny said, we will never get recruits as good as UK. That's a fireable offense to me right there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
If you can see that you're always going to be second fiddle to Kentucky, then get the heck out. Get out.
Yeah, I think he's been brainwashed, been in Lexington all that long.
Be as good as them. Really? Yeah, we can't recruit anybody because we only had 4 wins last season. I wonder why we had 4 wins last season. Was it Chris Mack's fault? He wasn't here. You coached the team. You got 4 wins.
Is it true that U of L is stretching the dollar because they're still paying Rick Pitino, paying Jurish, paying Mack, and so they can't afford to buy out Kenny Payne?
Have to go down like that because her name was Bendapudi.
Yeah, then she left.
Right. She whacked everybody off, and I don't mean in a good way. She whacked everybody off.
This is a family show.
She up and left in the middle of the night. Our AD didn't like Bendapudi, so he leaves, and then right after he leaves, she says, "Well, I'm leaving anyway." That whole situation is messed up. But you've told me this before, and I believe it. It comes down to when Matt Bevin, right, was in office.
Yes.
His job was to dismantle U of L, break it apart. Him and probably, I don't know this to be true. I'm making this up.
Vance.
And John Shatner, like, believe that it was all kind of intermingled.
Yeah.
To get rid of Jurich and whoever else they didn't like, and it's like they didn't care about.
And John Shatner was mad because they took his name off when that incident happened with yeah. Well, at the end of the day, the AD is saying that we're stuck with him, and I believe it's a financial decision. I really do believe it's a financial decision. But what's really hurting is something that you said earlier was, well, actually, I went back. Let me just back up and talk about that, Paul. I went back and I was looking at some information about what he said, and what his statement was. His statement was never that Kenny Payne was going to finish the year. He said Kenny Payne will be with us through the new year. He didn't say the basketball season. He didn't say the year. He said Kenny Payne will be with us through the new year.
As soon as the kids get back from vacation.
Could fire him, first week in January, second week in January, third week in January. I don't know. I would think that there is some pressure from Main Street because Main Street is suffering. I mean, you have to understand that those businesses have spent so much money preparing to be ready for the crowds that are leaving and that are the ones that are going into U of L's game, because a lot of people come down to Main Street, loaded down here. We know that coming from the office with the traffic and all of that.
Now we get out freely.
Now except if the women's are playing. If the women are playing, it's a little bit. We have traffic down here, but the men is no problem. But it is sad because I'm not sure if I was, but I think there were a lot of U of L fans really excited to hear that Kenny Payne was going to be the coach. He's been at University of Kentucky, he's been working under Calipari, and now he's coming back home.
Yeah, quit telling me that you're supporting him because he's black. Quit telling me that he's getting fired because he's black. Quit telling me that my eyes are lying to me. I don't see a good product on the court. Don't tell me that he didn't get a chance. You've had a chance for a season and a half. And if you look at your record, dude, it's hard to win 4 games. You could have won 10, you could have won 12. It's hard to only win 4. That's a lot of freaking losses to a lot of terrible teams.
4 minutes.
This year, your schedule's like 300 in the nation and you still can't win. So telling me it's because he's black. Well, tell me you didn't get a fair shake. You beat the teams you're supposed to be.
They
You
just
beat the teams that we paid to get a victory for. We paid USNBC for a victory and didn't get it. So
what about that team that we saw downtown? That was a Kentucky school, right? We were at lunch and we saw these kids just walking downtown enjoying Louisville like they'd never been to Louisville. Then they go to the Yum Center. It was an exhibition game and they beat the hell out of U of L, right?
you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's clear to us, everybody, here, at least here in the studio, that Paul will not. He will not jump out this window at all. He's not going to do that, even though he's gotten extremely excited about it. But it's clear to us that he is probably echoing what many of the U of L fans are saying, either under their breath or on Twitter or Facebook or wherever they're and not so much face to face, but they're saying that Kenny Payne has to go.
Let me just reiterate this. It's not about just wins and losses. It's what your eyes tell you. Don't let somebody who doesn't watch U of L basketball comment about, oh, you just went fire. You just didn't give it to, oh, look at Jeff Brown. Look at the games. If you know basketball, then you know what a good coach team looks like, and you know what a team looks like. Can you separate this team from a team that's playing pickup basketball?
Sometimes I cannot. I'm just going to be honest with you. Sometimes I cannot. And the team is hard to watch. It is hard to watch U of L games today because first of all, you cannot identify that one person like Hurley. Like everybody turned on. I mean, well, just like in football, people turned on the TV to watch U of L because of Lamar. People turn on, of course, people turn on to watch Colorado. Don't give a damn about Colorado. Never been to Colorado before Deion Sanders and maybe his son and maybe Travis. Nobody turns on U of L basketball for one particular person, right? You understand what I'm saying? Like we had Russ Smith, we had Siva, we had Daryl Griffith.
We got good players on this team, Carl. I promise you, I can name 3 that are good players.
Do their stats say that they're good players?
Stats don't say they're good players, but my eyes tell me that's a good player. Get Huntley Hatfield.
You simply believe that they're just ill coached.
Yes, when you got a guy who is 6'10", and what I perceive to be the best player on the team, setting screens at the top of the key most of the game, you got a coaching problem.
Yeah.
The guy needs the ball around the basket, and you need to get players to get him in a position where he gets the ball around the basket. He's a good player.
Well, anyway, Paul, we have beat this cat to death. That's for sure. At least you have. I thought Paul was going to go out that window over there, but the window is still.
I mean, I could go on.
Nobody's hearing. We're still here.
Every time I watch a game, people say I pick it apart. Not because I pretend to be a coach or anything like that, but because I'm watching college players not executing fundamental basketball sometimes.
Yeah, it is hard to watch.
Team than last year. I will give you that. I said that at the beginning here.
Oh, it is.
The record doesn't show it. But
oh, it is.
The team is better than last
year. Yeah, it is difficult to watch. And it's not difficult to watch because they're losing. I've watched many University of Louisville basketball games when they lost games, but the games were fun to watch, right? Because the talent was there. There was effort. They were really trying. I mean, there were times, last year, remember last year they were up by 10 and with less than a minute left and lost the game? How does that happen? So anyway.
One more point real quick.
Yeah, because we are right at the limit of our time.
Talking about, and again, I keep saying this because I hear this a lot. He just has to get his players. He has to get his players. It's not about getting his players. It's about you have talent, and can you get the best out of the talent that you have.
Right.
We don't have terrible talent. These kids, you got the guy Mike Evans. How does the shooting percentage go from 40% from 3-point line to like 30%? It's because your coaching is not getting him into spots where he gets better shots. If I take 50 shots and all 50 are contested by two people, I'm going to shoot a terrible percentage, even if I'm Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan can't constantly shoot over a double or triple team. And so your coaching has to get you in positions where you got more open shots. We don't have enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, Paul, you have once again done it. You have called Kenny Payne out. What's his contract annually? The whole contract was $8 million? Is that what it is? Or is that the buyout?
I just keep saying Kenny has to reinvent himself. Get away from Cal Perry's dribble drive offense. Do his own defense. Do something different. Save your own job.
Somebody said he was coaching like Crum. He was applying some of the stuff that Crum applied.
12 games. Crum never got as bad as 5-4 games.
No, he never did.
So Kenny, I challenge you, win 12 games this year. My money's on you're not going to win 12.
How much do you bet?
Whatever bets I'll take it.
That's better than the mutual funds. Anyway, Paul, thank you for coming in again tonight. I know you had a lot to say, and boy, did you say it. Whew, did you say it. But, the point is well taken. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do. Anyway, Kenny Payne, should he stay or should he stay or should either gonna Paul, you predict that it's gonna be embarrassing. I'm hoping that it won't be. Anyway.
I'll be happy to eat crow and say, Kenny, you turned it around. But if he wins 10 out of the next 19 games, he's turning it around because we don't see that happening right now. How are you going to beat 10 ACC teams when you couldn't beat 10, pay to win teams?
Right. He said pay to win team. That is a horrible way for you to put that. It's a horrible way for you to put it because he said, we pay y'all to come here so we can kick your ass and then y'all beat us and y'all take our money and you take the win with you. Wow, that's one way to put it. Anyway, Paul, thanks for coming in. Listen, this is, I am Carl Price. This has been Conscious Fever here on ICE Entertainment Television, Conscious Fever Radio. I want to say thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back at some point. I will be remiss not to say, please have a safe and wonderful Happy New Year. Please be careful out there. Let's all make it into 2024. Have you done your New Year's resolutions yet, Paul, for 2024? No? Do you do resolutions? Okay. I do. Anyway, this is
just be yesterday. Be a better person today than you were yesterday.
Oh. Anyway, y'all, before his mic messes up our audio, because he's over there taking it off, I am Carl Price. This has been Conscious Fever here on ICE Entertainment Television, Conscious Fever Radio. We will see you next time. Happy New Year.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price on 97thebeatfm.com.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it is. Mm. Then I go to my brother. And I say, brother, help me, please. But he wind up knocking me back down on the knee. Oh, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long. But now I think I'm able, Father, to carry on. And it's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it is. Yes it is. Yes it is. Said I know that a change is gonna come one day. I know a change